Hi, welcome back. I say welcome back, but if you're watching these back to back, you've been here all along. I personally have left and come back to do another one of these, so welcome back to me, I guess. Okay, so video number 5, I believe we are on, and now we are talking about the ins and outs of running an actual session and what that looks like and what to expect. So first of all, session can take place in a lot of different places, or locations. So it's going to be a little bit dependent on where your session is taking place. Predominantly, they're taking place in people's homes, but sometimes in a daycare setting, sometimes in a school setting, whether that's during school hours or after school hours, or out in the community. So keep in mind that this all is relevant, but will change depending on where your session is. So the first thing you need to do is be on time. Please monitor your punctuality because we mostly only are working with our clients for an hour and a half to maybe 2 hours at a time, sometimes a little bit longer. So every minute counts, and there's a lot that goes into being prepared for the session, so we don't want to lose any of that time. So when you first show up, you're going to be like trading off with somebody typically. So if that is with a parent or with an EA or somebody, a different family member or community member, no problem. You just want to take a minute to touch base and see how things are going, because that's going to be like your uh, barometer for how much you might get out of session, right? Like if your client has been having a really difficult day and they don't seem like they're in the best mood and something set them off 30 minutes ago and they're still sort of reeling from that, then you're going to use that in your planning to start with something fun. Maybe work on maintenance things that they already have mastered and are just practicing. Maybe allowing for a little bit more breaks than you normally would, because we want the session to be successful, not to necessarily meet a specific standard each time that you see them. Because I have bad days. I have days where I don't get as much work done. And as an adult who sets my own hours, that's my choice. And then on days when I'm feeling great and I'm on the top of my game, then I work extra and I get way more done to kind of try and offset that, right? And that's real life. So that's okay for our clients as well. So talk to whoever you're changing over with and get a feel for things. Um, Next up, prep the space that you're in, whether that's the community and being prepared for knowing, where you're going to be going and making sure you have gas in your car if that's what you need, or having materials you might need if you're going to the park, or knowing the whatever it is that you might need in the community, entrance fees or something to the like. All of that can be prepared in advance, but make sure you're ready for it. If you're in a home environment or a school environment, that will mean potentially organizing the space a little bit. Sometimes that means taking a sheet or a towel and throwing it over a big bin of toys that are really distracting. It could mean just moving some space around to clear off a table, or making sure that everything's sort of neat and tidy, because we want this space to be as much as possible free of distractions, because that's going to really benefit our learners with them being able to pay attention to us. So take a minute to do that if you need to. The next thing is to decide, what are you going to work on today? Because you will usually have a little bit more than you can get done in a day. And if you're working with a kid under 6, you'll have way more than you can get done in a day, because you have 5 or 6 days a week that this kiddo gets intervention, and we don't want them getting bored. So they're working on a little bit different stuff all the time. So decide what you're going to work on. How do you do that? Well, how do you decide? Well, look at what have they been working on in the last few days. We want to make sure that none of our goals are being ignored, that everything is getting targeted. If it's not getting targeted for some reason, why is that? Think about that, and ask for help if you need it. Making sure that if there are some priorities that are like a main priority right now, that you're hitting those each day, if that's been the request for the family or for the behavior analyst. and organizing the programs that you're going to work on in terms of which one are you going to do first, right? So if you have a kiddo who has some community stuff that you go to a park for, and some card at the table sort of intensive stuff, and some art stuff, you're not going to do all the card programs all at one time, and then all of the motor programs all at one time, and then everything else. You want to intersperse it a little bit and give it a little bit of variety. It takes a little bit longer to organize. You need to really be prepared for that, for it to run smoothly, because we need to keep control of our materials, but it's going to go much better for the client who does not want to sit there and do flashcards with you for 30 or 40 minutes at a time. So think about the pacing of how you're going to do this. The next thing is that you want to build your visual schedule. So this means different things for different clients, but every client gets some sort of visual schedule. So for my intervention cases, where I'm actually frontline on the team, I use a whiteboard and we draw out like a map of what we're going to do. He knows when he's getting his breaks, he knows what's coming first, and then the next, he knows what his last thing is going to be. I get him to give me some input on that, so that he has a little autonomy over his day. And it's just, boxes, and it's written inside because he can read. Other kids, you could draw simple pictures. It does not need to be your best artwork, but it's just something that gives them a roadmap to know what are they working on today, because they deserve to know that. Other kids, it will be, a physical visual that there's little pictures that you can stick on and off, like with Velcro, so that might work for them, especially for the littles. It often just comes with their materials. That's totally awesome to use. For the older clients, it might be that you have an actual sort of agenda that you're using with a to-do list. You can just write them out and they can cross them out as they go. But whatever it is, your client should always know what they're going to be doing for the day. Once that's organized and you've figured out what you're working on, you have your data sheets ready to go, you have the materials you need, invite that individual into the setting. Up to this point, they shouldn't be sitting there waiting for you, twiddling their thumbs, because you're going to start losing motivation and they're going to have a reason to want to escape from the environment. So let them be doing their own thing. I mean, if they're little, you might need to get them set up with a toy or a play center. If they're older, they might be looking on their phone or whatever they're doing, but don't have them just forced to sit there and wait for you to get organized. And so invite them into the session, and the first thing on your schedule should be something enjoyable for them, because we want to start with that instructional control and that pairing that we talked about. Every time we want to start with building that relationship again. So start with something fun. Doesn't need to take that long, but just a few minutes of, playing a game or getting some material set up for playtime, or just having a chat with them. They might have a snack that they need to have, or whatever the case may be. But start out light and then jump into the programs. So we talked a little bit about deciding what programs to run when, but as you're going through them, make sure that you're keeping a fairly steady pace for them. When you first get started, this is going to take some time because you're shiny and new, and that's totally appropriate. But we just want to make sure that they're not getting bored, right? So the slower we are with delivering our demands to them and delivering our reinforcement, the more time we have to see some challenging behaviors that they might not want to be there for. So move through the programs. When you finish a program, if your client needs to take a break, that's totally fine. Build that into the schedule. If they can do a couple of programs without a break and that's been really established for them, that's fine. Do a few programs before you take a break. If your client can't get through one program yet without needing a break, they can only do a few trials of a few targets, no problem. Just work at the pace that they're at, because if you stay at their pace and you build that instructional control and you have really high rates of success for them, then over time they're going to be able to do more. So don't try and force it. So move through the session like this, moving through your programs, taking, 5 minutes in the middle if you need to kind of readjust and get organized again. Totally appropriate. As the session comes to a close, if you're not going to get through everything you had on your list, happens to me all the time, that's totally fine. You just need to adjust your demands Maybe there were some behaviors that you needed to troubleshoot. Maybe you just had way higher hopes than you guys could actually accomplish, and you're still learning the ropes. Maybe they're having an off day. That's totally fine. If you need to end early, you can not end early. Work till the end of your session. But if your session ends and you're not through your schedule, that's okay. We just want to make sure that we finish whatever the last demand was, so that our client isn't having an opportunity to wait you out and escape something. So whatever that last demand in play was, that is something that they're expected to accomplish before you go. They should get their last break or reinforcement or tokens, or exchange their tokens or whatever it was. So leave some time available at the end for that. Most people finish up session 7 minutes or so before it actually ends, so that they can do that piece, put away data sheets if they need to, tidy up the space and get it back to how it was when you arrived, and then complete a session summary. So a session summary is online on our ShareVision site that I've been telling you about, and you'll go into the client's file, and just along the left-hand side where all of their information is, there's just a button that says session summary. You go in there and you can just fill it in on your phone or on their tablet or whatever. You can ask the family for their Wi-Fi so it's not eating up your data. And while you're in that room, finish that session summary. That's the expectation, that it's done while you're there on that paid time. It's built into the schedule, okay? So finish your session summary. Then you guys are done. Everything looks as it was. Everyone is, has finished their last demand. Everything's organized, and the session's over. Go back to whoever you're trading places with again, the family member, the teacher, a community member, whoever, and let them know now how your last couple of hours went. Do they need to know anything that happened in that? And be objective, and be supportive. This is not an opportunity for us to vent to those people if session didn't go well. If a parent has a child who has challenging behaviors, they know that. They don't need you to say that to them every day at the end of session. So tell them the things that really did go well. And if there was something that we need to work on, that's fine. That's fair. We can tell them that. But be upbeat. Let them know the successes are, what the successes were, because that's what the family wants to hear. And then you finish session and you're out of the house or out of the space right on time. If you're done at 5, then you're walking out at 5 or 5:01 or maybe 5:02. And then you're done for the day. And that is the ins and outs of what those actual 2 hours break down and look like. Okay, thank you. Talk to you next time.